I'm not doing a video right now. Hey, I could do a little tiny video, I guess. Right now, what's her name? Crystal is doing a video about masculine men. And I was just thinking, like, for me personally, I've never really cared if a man was masculine or not. Now, I mean, certain traits, are attractive on a man physically that define him, like, that are considered masculine, I guess, in that sense, because I'm attracted to masculine traits. But I am saying, as far as actions, behavior, nothing that is masculine behavior appeals to me, generally. And it makes sense, because I am more of a masculine woman. So, for me, I mean, I don't know, I just never really cared about that kind of thing. In fact, most of the men I ever been interested in, they usually are more feminine than me, or as feminine as me, on equal level. Like, generally, my yang needs a yang that's matched, or a yin, basically. And you see, I didn't say yin, because for me, I don't really see it as the fact that I am yin, really, even though yin is female, yin is feminine. My energy is more yang, in my opinion. And the guys I like are more yang, but they're not strong yangs, they're more like weak yangs. So yeah, I don't know, this has just never been my thing. I think people who are born female can definitely bring off that energy of yang, true yang, I know that's considered like transgender people, but like, I never am attracted to them, for example. And I know people will say that's homophobic or transphobic or whatever. For me, it's not about that. It's not any issue. I would gladly date a woman if she had male parts, basically. How I see it. I never really had anything against women in any regard, but I'm just saying, like, I like male parts, you get what I'm saying? So that's all that really matters. Masculine energy doesn't really matter to me. And that's exactly why yang energy isn't an appeal. In men, it's not an appeal in anybody. Now, it would be wrong, I guess, or transphobic to think that way if I was like yang energy in men, cis men, it's attractive, but and trans men, it's not. It's not like that. Like, literally, it's like a penis versus pussy thing. For me. So, yeah, that's generally all I have to say on, like, that. Favoring masculine men, I don't really see the appeal, personally. And I never have really felt like masculinity was anything attractive, really. In fact, honestly, when I was real young, I actually thought feminine energy was more attractive. But without liking the woman, it's weird. That's why, like, when I first started off, I actually preferred, like, feminine men, I guess you could call them, like, twinks or whatever. Then I grew up with kind of, like, having more of a preference towards anyone, really, kind of thing. But I guess if I could have it my way, I still think I would prefer men that are more feminine than rather masculine. Masculinity is just not an attractive trait to me. I don't know. It's like being attracted to a pair of pants. Like, you can't be attracted to a type of article of clothing, you know. I know. But yeah, it's just something she's doing a video on, and I don't really see an appeal personally. But, I mean, no shade against people who do. I just thought I'd share my opinions while I'm doing my makeup, as I turned on the video. I didn't actually expect to turn on the video, it was by accident. But yes, that's generally my thoughts on that. I'm pretty sure she's gonna try and twist it into an issue of why she prefers the ethnicity, the men of the specific ethnic origin she prefers. I guess you could say that it does play a role for me, but not really. Like, for example, my mother, and people could say it's for different reasons, because some people would say it's because you didn't grow up with a dad or whatever. But the thing is, like, for my dad, he didn't really look like my mom, so it could not quite be that air, because, I mean, like, I identify as mixed race because of my dad. I identify as mixed race because of my mom. My mom, I would just consider her black. She has other things in her too, obviously everyone does, but I would just consider her black race. But, yeah, I don't really think, yeah, that I really don't think that that's the reason for me at all. Like, she's because of, like, not growing up with her father or whatever. I don't really think so, because, like I said, my father wasn't like those people, really. But I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Like, the thing is, I talked to my mother about certain stuff recently, actually, and she was telling me she did it on purpose, because I talked to her about, like, I think they know she did it on purpose, like, she raised me away from a lot of black women, because she was scared of black women. Didn't want me growing up and going to certain schools, kind of look down on certain people, things like that. But more than that, like, for example, I'll show my lip gloss. Like, I was talking to her about the fact that, like, when I was growing up, the symbol of, like, masculinity was never taught to her to be, like, a man that looks similar to her. In the media, in my neighborhood, my mother, like, anything, in any respect. Specifically, like, my mother always pointed out, like, beauty in men when it had to do with other races, really. Specifically white men. She never really, like, Asian men, she always looked like they weren't men. And Hispanic men, well, I grew up with a lot of, like, anger towards them and stuff because I grew up in the Southwest. There are issues like that. But, yeah, for me, like, as far as, like, masculinity, I mean, not really completely. I feel like it was more so, like, yeah, it was taught that, but on top of it, it's like my mother, for example, kind of was the type who was really praised for how she looked, basically. Like, she thought she was, like, really attractive, really beautiful. So, like, my type of understanding of, like, feminine beauty was always, this was a double-edged sword, to be honest, because, like, I don't look like my mom, to be really honest. I look much more like my dad. But basically, I was taught, like, that was the epitome of feminine beauty, you know, a darker skinned, black looking, like, woman, basically. And honestly, like, when I was younger, I always wanted to look more, you know, African descent. And you know, like try and uplift those features. That's why I still try to make my lips look a lot bigger than what they are, because it's a staple thing for my mother, and the cheekbones, other features like having a smaller. Oh my god, look at what I did there. Anyway, um, having more like, you know, like softer, like rounder features basically. And so for me, like when I saw like men who looked like her, I kind of just saw her. So I guess that kind of affected my look on how I felt black men kind of looked. Because I kind of just always saw my mother. But on her channel, nothing against it. I mean, I'm a supporter of her channel and things of that nature. My reason for, you know, an attraction towards them, it's not like that exactly. I kind of feel like she goes a little in on them. And for me, it's not. It's just that my mother looks very much similar to them, in my opinion. And a lot of, you know, black men and women kind of look similar. And so for me, it's kind of like I see too much commonality to actually want to be with, you know, someone who looks like my mother. I can't really see masculinity in something that all my life I've seen as feminine. And that's basically it. That's, I mean, like, as far as masculinity and, like, she's talking about as far as masculinity, I don't really see, like, that they aren't, like, providers or, like, they don't stick around or whatever. That's not my reason, really. I don't just judge someone on their color. I don't want to be judged that way, and I wouldn't judge anyone else that way in any respect. But for me, I mean, I do notice that I don't really see that much masculinity in them for those reasons. I mean, yeah, that's basically it. Honestly, I mean, it's not just the media and like how I grew up and how I was raised, because everything that I was raised, I should definitely prefer like guys that are like basically white. Yeah, preferably like darker skin, like Mediterranean, I guess, because if you think of it, some people, if you know, if yeah, like how some colorist crybabies always talk about like how, you know, white people prefer lighter or something like that. They think it's not just within their like candidate. They think it's like outside, which I don't really think. But I always thought if we really were going there, I would say kind of technically if we switch things around, that's how I was raised, on the upside down sense of it, basically. I guess that doesn't really make much sense, but what I mean is like, so the way I was raised was kind of like I said, like there wasn't much appreciation as far as men of like black men, for example. But it was also like growing up, I always had some type of. My mother was didn't like very fair skin. So it was kind of like in reverse, kind of like how people say, like, prefer lighter over darker is kind of like the same thing. What is closer to you? Like, the tan is closer than obviously fair skin. So, I mean, in that respect, I guess, yeah. But, anyway, I think I could do that under my eye too. But yeah, it's not just based off of how I was raised exactly, but that's just the foundation of how I basically was raised to see things, I guess you could say. But yeah. But yeah, like generally, even despite that, like generally prefer look very similar to me, kind of more similar, especially to my father's side of the family, things of that nature, which I guess makes biological sense, to some sense. But with that said, there's also other factors that I've talked about, but I don't really even want to address them here. I was just saying, like, what I generally have always seen as more masculine. I don't really think it has to do with that. But if it did, it would only have to do with it on a physical level, not like in an emotional sense, like the lady was saying. I do not see anyone by their skin as their character kind of mentality. And nothing against her that she does. Like I said, I have never had anything against her. I definitely appreciate the content that she gives out. And yeah, I think that's going to be the end of this video. Put a little bit more at the bottom of my nose. And I'm going to close this video out. Alright, bye bye.